Baby, be in love with your fantasies. I can be a star, make us high so bright. Welcome to my dungeon, this is ecstasy. Let me play the fantasy.
What's good, YouTube? It's your girl, Asia.
And it's your boy, BJ.
And we back like we never left.
And we appreciate y'all for pulling up, tuning in. And yeah, we got a video pulled up that I really wanted to check in and tap in. You know, every time I see something that has Thomas Sowell on it, I definitely want to like check it out and kind of see what the information is about.
Yeah.
Okay, the title of it is Where Black Culture Really Comes From.
Where current black culture really comes from. So current black culture. That's like as we live today,
Oh, as we live right now. So yeah, okay.
Ooh, okay, ooh.
Okay, so
This
that's
should
not
be interesting.
just saying like, you know, black culture had really kind of like
started
created
like,
from. They're talking about like right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how do we live? How does the current black culture live? Like why they live the way that they live now, I guess, right? Where current black culture really comes from. We
might as well check something out like that. It's always good to know really what's going on right now as of how we got where we're at right now. So if this video has some information about that, I definitely would like to see.
Yeah, I think this should be good. This should be interesting. I'm just curious to see how he's gonna say this, how it has derived. I don't know. Okay.
See if there's some things in here that I don't know for sure.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, join the family, and let's jump into this video, y'all.
These people are creating a terrible problem in our cities.
Uh-oh.
They can't or won't hold a job, they flout the law constantly and neglect their children, they drink too much, and their moral standards would shame an alley cat. For some reason or other, they absolutely refuse to accommodate themselves to any kind of decent, civilized life. This was said in 1956 in Indianapolis, not about blacks or other minorities, but about poor whites from the South.
Whoa.
Nor was Indianapolis unique in this respect. A 1951 survey in Detroit found that white Southerners living there were considered undesirable by 21% of those surveyed, compared to 13% who ranked blacks the same way. In the late 1940s, a Chicago...
Why were they ranked lower? How could they have been ranked lower?
Who?
He said he said according to, I guess when they did the survey, they said 20% of whites that lived in this
were less desirable versus 13% for blacks that were there.
Yeah.
Probably just in regards to a lot of things that's going on in the city, like the inner city of Detroit, like the low economic areas, as far as a lot of like low income Caucasian people, they found them less desirable to be around.
Okay.
Just on the culture, what's going on, suppose,
Okay.
That's an interesting number.
Who ranked blacks the same way. In the late 1940s, a Chicago employer said frankly, "I told the guard at the plant gate to tell the hillbillies that there were no openings." When poor whites from the South moved into northern cities to work in war plants during the Second World War, occasionally, a white Southerner would find that a flat or a furnished room had just been rented when the landlord heard his Southern accent. More is involved here than a mere parallel between blacks and Southern whites. What is involved is a common subculture that goes back for centuries, which has encompassed everything from ways of talking to attitudes toward education, violence, and sex.
Wow. So they were being turned away because of how they actually sounded in terms of how they talk. So you talk about a man
like a hillbilly
trying to find a job, goes to like a northern part of like a northern area and can't get a job or can't get a home or rent or whatever because of how they talk.
And you're already seeing like, you know, even amongst like Caucasian people in America, you're already seeing like the change in like class and like the classism in regards to like this level of Caucasian people and this so lower class Caucasian people, so-called hillbillies or rednecks, you know. They're looked at completely different.
So almost like they're not good enough. You're not good enough to go here. Like you don't go here because you don't fit in.
See, I'm already seeing a parallel because when the slaves were freed, then I mean they're already uneducated. They're already at the bottom of the totem pole just from history in America. So I mean, I can already see them coming together. Redneck, hillbilly, low income Caucasians, and then black people.
Exactly.
And which originated not in the South, but in those parts of the British Isles from which white Southerners came. That culture long ago died out where it originated in Britain, while surviving in the American South.
Oh, so it died out in one place, and but it carried on.
Sprouted up.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's interesting in regards to what they're saying right there.
Long ago died out where it originated in Britain, while surviving in the American South. Then it largely died out among both white and black Southerners, while still surviving today in the poorest and worst of the urban black ghettos.
Oh.
It is not uncommon for a culture to survive longer where it is transplanted and to retain characteristics lost in its place of origin. The French spoken in Quebec and the Spanish spoken in Mexico contain words and phrases that have long since become archaic in France and Spain. Regional German dialects persisted among Germans living in the United States after those dialects had begun to die out in Germany itself. A scholar specializing in the history of the South has likewise noted among white Southerners archaic word forms, while another scholar has pointed out the continued use in that region of terms that were familiar at the time of the first Queen Elizabeth. The card game whist is today played almost exclusively by blacks, especially low-income blacks, though in the 18th century it was played by the British upper classes and has since then evolved into bridge. The history of the evolution of this game...
It's funny that they bring that up.
So it's played in the whist is the name of the game, you said.
Originally, yeah, they kind of converted it into
I never heard
bridge.
of that before, whist.
My aunts and them, like my older aunts, they used to play that like at the barbecue games, at the barbecues and things like that. Card games, like obviously like
games,
spades.
But bridge sounded familiar. I just don't know. I don't really know. I think I've...
That's funny you brought that up.
Wait, is that where you stack the cards and you call it a bridge?
Like no, I don't know how to play it.
Okay,
like I don't play bridge. I haven't played. I don't know how to play spades. I don't know how to play that, but yeah, I've seen them play that. Hey, Uno, you know me, we're Uno now.
Okay,
I play some Uno.
That part.
And has since then evolved into bridge. The history of the evolution of this game is indicative of a much broader pattern of cultural evolution in much more weighty things. Southern whites not only spoke the English language in very different ways from whites in other regions. Their churches, their roads, their homes, their music, their education, their food, and their sex lives were all sharply different from those of other whites. The history of this redneck or cracker culture is more than a curiosity. It has contemporary significance because of its influence on the economic and social evolution of vast numbers of people, millions of blacks and whites, and its continuing influence on the lives and deaths of a residual population in America's black ghettos, which has still not completely escaped from that culture. From early...
I agree with that right there, especially like when we're talking about like the current black culture. Just even what I was explaining to you about what my barber was telling me in regards to his cousin being killed in a shootout.
Yeah.
At a bar here in Dallas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just everything that's going on with people just living that way, living like almost like a hopeless way of life in regards to just a lack of life, you know? So people like, especially like in the black culture, and I tell y'all that like straight up, like especially like right now, that's definitely like a big problem. Like a lot of like, especially like younger black kids that's coming up right now, that's growing up like here, like in the inner cities and the ghettos, or the hoods. Like the lack of life and how they just have like a lack of motivation for like education and like that pursuit of happiness. Like they're not pursuing it. Like they pursue, like you said, like the gun toting, being on social media, like the hip hop combined with that too. It is like you can see the parallel between how black culture's gotten to where it's at right now.
Yeah, but what's crazy is that like the people have just continued to carry this on for as long as it's going on. Yeah. Because I think like, hypothetically speaking, like if you just take enough people that are in an environment like that to change that way of life, that way of thinking, that mindset of being, survival, like having to be out on the street to
survival,
be tough, to be strong, to have this really tough exterior. When if you have enough people that are all willing to be like, man, bump all of that, like let's try to make this community look better, let's make our apartment building look nicer,
you have a few people
change
that try
the way,
to do it,
you know what I mean? But it's
enough.
just like I don't know. Like I feel like if there was enough people to change that evolutionary type of style, like over a period of time.
Not
Obviously, it would take
evolutionary.
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah, like what did I say?
Evolutionary, like people like actually can evolve.
Yeah,
in a positive
just change
light.
that over time. Yeah, that mindset. Like however long it took to get there, like just about the same amount of people, same amount of time to change it and overturn it. Like I wonder if the ghettos would be what they were to the extent that they are today if that weren't a thing.
We got to fix that mental programming. You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? Right.
Just in regards to like a mindset, because like you said, when you used to work at like HHSC, whatever it's called, for like the state, and you're trying to, and you see all these low income, especially like a lot of black people coming in there, even like you said, Hispanics, low income Caucasians, like you see them coming in there, just coming to get like WIC and food stamps, and you would talk to a lot of them, and they would be like on unemployment, and and it was like a lot of them, they didn't even really care.
No.
You know what I mean? Like they didn't care. Like they just wanted to get on a program, get their money to go get free food and free money, and that was okay for them.
Like that was okay.
It's like,
and some even just go to work just long enough so they can get what they need to get to stay on the benefits.
Yeah, like because they won't have to be employed for like 90 days and then they'll quit.
Yeah,
that's what you were saying.
Yeah.
There you go. See,
which has still not completely escaped from that culture. From early in American history, foreign visitors and domestic travelers alike were struck by cultural contrasts between the white population of the South and that of the rest of the country in general, and of New England in particular. In the early 19th century, Alexis de Tocqueville contrasted white Southerners with white Northerners in his classic Democracy in America, and Frederick Law Olmsted did the same later in his books about his travels through the antebellum South, notably Cotton Kingdom. The cultural values and social patterns prevalent among Southern whites included an aversion to work, proneness to violence, neglect of education, sexual promiscuity, improvidence, drunkenness, lack of entrepreneurship, reckless searches for excitement, lively music and dance, and a style of religious oratory marked by strident rhetoric, unbridled emotions, and flamboyant imagery. This oratorical style carried over into the political oratory of the region in both the Jim Crow era and the Civil Rights era, and has continued on into our own times among black politicians, preachers, and activists. Touchy pride, vanity, and
I've grown up with some pastors and some deacons and some reverends that kind of took on that style of like flamboyancy. And I ain't got 80.
Preachers, and activists. Touchy pride, vanity, and boastful self-dramatization were also part of this redneck culture among people from regions of Britain where the civilization was the least developed. They boast and lack self-restraint, Olmsted said, after observing their descendants in the American antebellum South. While Professor Grady McWhiney's Cracker Culture is perhaps the most thorough historical study of the values and behavioral patterns of white Southerners, many other scholarly studies have turned up very similar patterns, even when they differed in some ways as to the causes. Professor David Hackett Fisher's Albion Seed, for example, challenges the Celtic connection thesis put forth by Professor McWhiney, but shows many of the same cultural patterns among the same people, both in Britain and in the American South. Popular writings of the 19th and 20th centuries have likewise described similar behavior, including the Indianapolis residents' comments on white Southern migrants to that city, which sound so much like what many have said about ghetto blacks. None of this is meant to claim that these patterns have remained rigidly unchanged over the centuries, or that there are literally no differences between whites and blacks in any aspects of this subculture. However, what is remarkable is how pervasive and how close the similarities have been.
That's very important for him to say that right there at the very, very end in regards to the parallels between black culture and, redneck culture, hillbilly culture, low income Caucasian culture, And again, I feel like it just has to do with just economics at the end of the day. Economics and having resources. If you put people that don't have resources, that don't have education, you put them in an area, especially like an area that's very, very populated, where they don't have room, there's no space, so there's less resources, and then there's always like a liquor store in every corner, and you know all this stuff going on.
Do you think that that's like part of the problem? Like the common culture today is that, you know, perhaps like those people who do live like in the ghettos and live in, you know, the harshest parts of like the states and stuff, do they have like the same issues in terms of like trying to go somewhere and get a job, like, you know, just to a nice place to get a job or get a job in general, because maybe their language is different, they lack the education, they lack, you know, all these things, but if they're willing to do the work, you know what I mean? Maybe it's not one place that necessarily has to have a high school diploma, but do you think that that's part of the problem, is that maybe the lack of resources for people to have to
definitely.
get to where they need to be?
Lack of resources, definitely. I think that's with any culture. If you have a lack of resources, you're going to always have people that's pretty much living in a survival mode, because, you know, when you don't have...
Do you think that they're turned away, though, because of that? Like, maybe because of, like, their lifestyles and all those things, like, when it comes to, like, employers and places to live and stuff like that, like...
That's why they're always... That's why I feel like that's where... that's why it's so heavily populated there. Like in the inner city, like when you go there and you see all these apartment buildings, or you see all these houses and they're so close together, and then you don't have, like I said, you don't have resources, you know, like they don't have as many grocery stores in that area. They don't have as many schools, or if the schools are, they're more ran down. So like I said, you have less motivated people, and then you have people that's, you know, then they're more prone to violence. That's what you're seeing, especially like with today's black culture. We hear about it like every day on the news, like y'all, like somebody getting killed every day, you know.
I mean, I just think without the funding that they would probably need to like help those communities out, like it's almost merely impossible to change that, to change the mindset. Obviously, I feel like it would take a lot of resources, you know, money at that, like probably the biggest just to start changing the communities, like.
And that's where the resources need to go, because I mean, you hear a lot of things in politics every day in regards to, like, you know, things that's being passed as far as where funds and funding is going.
Yeah, but it would have to be allocated correctly. Like that's the allocation part of it, and then putting people in place that will be able to disperse those funds like responsibly.
But they're not doing it.
But they don't do that.
Because you're seeing where the funds are getting allocated towards right now.
Yeah.
If you go on there, when they say they passed something and billions and billions of dollars is fixing to go towards something, like they cutting checks for billions of dollars to go towards places to do other things that's not even have anything to do with like the American people. It's going to other things. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's a whole nother story though.
Wow.
We'll talk about that another day. But I definitely like how they talked about like the language changed in regards to like the Ebonics and stuff like that too. They talked about the Ebonics, so it's a lot of great information in this video. It really makes you think.
Yeah.
Especially like how we are right now, as far as like you said, like black culture. It's very, very important to know this stuff.
Wow, man. Come on, man.
Come on.
We need to just change. Help each other. Help your brothers and sisters.
Yeah, gotta do better for sure.
I don't know. Like I just feel like it takes a village to
get it right.
however, you know what I mean, to fix it. Like it's not gonna just take one person that's out there trying to plant the trees and help the people. It takes everybody. Yeah. You know what I mean? Everybody's effort, and I don't know if we'll ever be able to come together to do that. That's the sad part.
I mean, we will eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotta have faith. We will eventually.
One day. So hey, y'all let us know what y'all think about this. But if y'all enjoyed this video, be sure you give us a big thumbs up, like, comment, and subscribe. Smash the notification bell. Join the family, y'all. And if ain't nobody else told you, we love you, and we're gonna see y'all in the next video, y'all. Bye.